I would say, the godfather of Hampton City, amen. Like, I gotta make sure I introduce him right so I won't be swimming with the fishes, you know what I'm saying? But we thank God for this gentleman here, great leader, great mentor to so many, great advocate for the community and equal rights. None other than former city council member of Hampton, Councilman Moffett. Amen.
Well, first of all, to the pastor of this great church, to the president of SLC, Andrew Shannon. Now, I don't charge this against my minutes, but I want you all to know something that history has not recorded, but that I have recorded. In Hampton, while I was a member of council, I want you to know that it was Andrew Shannon who was the first to come to Hampton and say, let's change the name of this school called Jefferson Davis. It was his initiative. And as a member of council, certainly it would not have happened without his support that we have the Dr. Martin Luther King Bridge leading from Hampton to Freedom's Fortress at Fort Monroe. And it was through Andrew Shannon that we will be honoring in the I King Plaza Hampton heroes on tomorrow. And I just want to thank Andrew Shannon and the SLC, Ms. Edna Davis, the Vice President, for your longevity. Hey, listen, if they didn't misunderstand me, I would call you an arsonist for civil rights because you always start the fire for justice. To all the honorables that are gathered in the room, the constitutional officers, friends, the beloved community, I want you to travel with me real quick. And if I had a subject today, and I don't have a subject because I'm not preaching to you, mine is real quick. I've got one page here. It would be Truth Marches On. And I want you to travel with me because I am one of the children of Freedom Summer in 1964. I'm one of the children of the Civil Rights Movement. When I was born in Meridian, Mississippi in 1954, my mother took me to Montgomery because we had family there. My grandmother came and got me when I was 15 months old. And 3 months later, we had a lady who was on her way home, and there had been others, by the name of Rosa Parks, who was sick and tired of having to sit on the back of the bus. So about that time, there was also a young 26-year-old minister, had not completed his doctorate yet, but his name was Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King and the people of Montgomery came together and they had a boycott in Montgomery. And this boycott lasted 381 days because the people of Montgomery would rather walk in dignity than to ride in shame. We march today in remembrance of Dr. King and the causes of which he stood. Now let me help you with something here. Dr. King and the freedom fighters, let me put on my glasses because I'm getting ready to take off. Dr. King and the freedom fighters marched for civil rights and often were met with angry mobs. And when they were brutalized and arrested, Dr. King was arrested over 29 times. In Birmingham, Alabama, some know it as Birmingham because of the bombings, they ended up bringing out the high school students and the junior high school students. It became so fierce. Well, they brought out the attack dogs. But they had something on the inside of them that the dog couldn't bite. They decided to turn on the water hoses on them. But I want you to know that they had a fire on the inside that the water couldn't put out. They brought out the paddy wagons. The jails were full, but I want you to know there were thousands more ready to go to jail for justice. Now I want you to know that I never met Dr. King, but he did come to Meridian, Mississippi. And he spoke at the church 2 doors from my house. Dr. King was in Meridian in Philadelphia, Mississippi during the time of the 3 civil rights workers. Not many of you all would remember that. We're talking about Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney, who went missing during Freedom Summer during a voter registration drive in Mississippi. James Chaney's little brother, Ben, was my elementary school classmate. And while the eyes of the nation were on Mississippi in 1964, these three brave men, two Jewish young men and an African-American young man, drove to Philadelphia to conduct a voter registration drive and to check on the congregation because the church had been burnt down. And incidentally, this was my great-uncle's church. The three young men were arrested, they were released and beaten, shot and killed and buried in a dam in Neshoba County by the sheriff and the sheriff deputies, who were also members of the local Ku Klux Klan. Well, today we still have a nation that is divided. We might be in 2020, but sometimes it feels like the 50s and the 60s. While you can be served in restaurants and hotels and live where you can afford to live, and while there have been many great accomplishments, we are still awaiting that America that will live up to its creed. That's what you talked about, Tiffany. People of color simply want to experience the American dream of being locked up in cages on our borders. We still have mass incarceration with a disproportionate number of people being people of color, being the ones that are locked up. There is more poverty in America today than there was on the when there was the March on Washington. Working people still find it hard to make a decent wage. And someone will have the nerve to tell me, why should I vote? Well, you see, elections have consequences. Tomorrow in Richmond, rather than honoring Dr. King, a man of peace, a drum major for justice and nonviolence, we have a temporary state of emergency declared by our governor, Governor Northam, because of credible threats of white supremacists and militia groups who come in to protest gun rights. And certainly I support the Second Amendment and the Constitution, but we need responsible gun ownership. Now somebody tell me, why do you need more than one gun a month? Why do you need assault weapons? What are you planning to do, and who are you planning to do it to? In closing today, we honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King and the causes he was represented. And I close with an excerpt from really one of my favorite Dr. King speeches that he made in Montgomery, Alabama, after they had concluded a 5-day, 54-mile march from Selma to Montgomery. Dr. King starts off as so. Said, some are still wondering how long will prejudice blind the vision of men. However difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long because truth crushed to the earth will rise again. Said, how long? Not long, because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long, because you shall reap what you sow. How long? Not long, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind him unknown stands God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long, because there is a moral arc to the universe, and it is long, and it always been towards justice. As we walk today in remembrance and in peace, I leave you with, I say to you, stay woke. Thank you.